All right, so Unit 2 review today. Make sure that you use this time to get your questions answered. So if we're going over something that you're not sure about, you can use the chat, ask a question, unmute yourself, ask a question. If I'm going too fast, slow me down. If I'm going too slow, speed me up, okay? This is your time and want to make sure you're getting your needs met. So Unit 2 review, if we finish this a little early today, then I'll stick around for extra questions at the end. I understand not everybody is working at the same pace. All right. So reminder, this month progress review is coming out next week. That means all students have a deadline at the end of this week. You have work that needs to get in order for you to be considered satisfactory in your classes. So if you're not sure what work you need to be doing in your classes or when your deadline is for your classes, your job is to message your teachers. So the best way to message your teachers is through the Canvas inbox. Always message your teachers individually. I will always allow work for monthly progress report to be turned in through the weekend. So Sunday at midnight is always my deadline. So that might help you organize your priorities for your other classes. Also reminder that you have access to free tutoring at tutor.com. You access it from your Launchpad. So that's learn.fwps.org. Who has tried going into tutor.com to connect with a tutor? I know that we showed the video a couple weeks ago of a student and I looking at it together. You can get connected with a tutor in under a minute to get help on whatever your question is. So super, super valuable. If you're stuck on math, that is the first place I would go, is tutor.com. It's an orange app on there. And reminder, in this class, we have Zoom lessons every Tuesday at 10. That's where you are right now. The lessons will typically go over what the pacing is of the class. So right now, students are paced, expected by the calendar to be finishing up Unit 2 right now, but I know not all of us are there because we're all working in different spots. So if you need individual support, the best place to get that is to come into my drop-in support on Thursdays at 10. Same link as this one. I'm always in there Thursdays at 10 for you to come in. Also, summative assessments. These are the items that go in your grade book. Make sure you're checking your grades. I'm going to be entering zeros today for missing assignments, temporary zeros. As soon as you turn in that item, the zero will go away and your grade will replace it. But reminder that your summative assessments are always retakeable. So read my feedback, do the practice that's suggested, because usually when I give you feedback, I'll say, hey, look at this video, or hey, do these practice problems, and then look at this again and resubmit. Make sure you're following up on that to improve your grade. Show me what you know. All right, questions on any nuts and bolts in math class? Okay, here is Unit 1 review. So, or excuse me, Unit 2. Oh, Mrs. Fergus, there's an error on here. This is supposed to be Unit 2. All right, so it's your Unit 2 test right now, this week. All right, and reminder that your assessments, your tests are open note. So that means you can use all of your worksheets from Apex. You can have them in front of you. You can use them when you're taking your test. Sometimes it just makes us feel better to have our notes in front of us when we take an assessment, even if we don't need to use them. I know I was that way when I went through school. Every single unit has a unit review worksheet. I'm going to show you where that is right now. before you take your CST, your computer scored test, make sure that you do your unit review worksheet and then check your answers. Please throw into chat right now where we find the answer keys for our APEX worksheets. Every single APEX worksheet has an answer key available in our course. Where are they posted? In files, exactly. So in files in Canvas, are your answer keys. All right, I'm going to show you real quick where your review worksheet is. Gotta hide the grade book here real quick. Okay, so in APEX, reminder, this button on the far left corner here, this is your favorite button. This is going to be your best friend throughout your entire APEX math textbook because it gives you the outline of your text. So make sure you're using that to navigate your text. At the end of every single unit, you have a section that's called the wrap up, and in your wrap up is a review worksheet. This review worksheet is a really good representation of the problems that you're going to see on the test. Do not take the test until you've completed this worksheet and you've checked your answers. So right here, you have this download button, which is super helpful because you're able to save this as a Word document, and then you could type on it, or you could save it as a PDF. If you have one of these digital pens, then you can handwrite on your digital worksheet, or you can always print this off with a printer, handwrite on it, or you could always just write these problems down in a math notebook. Super, super important that you have the problems somewhere. All right, and then where are the answer keys? I know my view shows that there's this fancy show answer button, but students don't have that, unfortunately. So your answer keys are posted in your course, right here under files. APEX answer keys, right here. And there they are for the entire semester. So you'll find the answer key for your unit review in there as well. All right, what questions do we have on review worksheets, how to prepare for your math test? Go ahead and throw them into the chat. All right, you guys ready to do some review? All right. All right, so lesson 2.1 was solving multi-step linear equations. And so your learning targets here, that you can isolate the variables in an equation by undoing the order of operations, that you can collect like terms to simplify the equation, that you can identify equations that have no solution or an infinite number of solutions. All right, so we are going to do these problems together. If you are following along with the recording or live right now, you're going to want to write on your paper. This is lesson 2.1, solving multi-step linear equations. So your notes are organized, and then write these problems down. So here's the first one. And what is the solution to the equation? Another set of directions there is just solve the equation. So we're going to solve all 4 of these equations. And one of the big themes from this lesson is you were asked to determine if an equation has no solution or an infinite number of solutions. or does it have one solution? And so these 4 problems are going to illustrate how we can tell. Once we've simplified the equation, how can we tell whether or not it has one solution, no solutions, or an infinite number of solutions? So let's look at number 1 together. What is the solution? Or another name to say that is solve. All right, so first step when we're solving on the left-hand side, we need to what? What is our first step on number 1? You can unmute yourself and share it out loud, or you can throw it in the chat. Nice, thank you for messaging. First step is to combine like terms on the left side. So we're going to combine our like terms. 3x plus 2x is 5x minus 5 equals 25. Good. Next step, we want to get x by itself here. So we need to undo that minus 5. Okay. I'm going to do that by adding 5 to both sides. And we're left with 5x equals 30. All right, last step. Last step, what undoes 5 times x? We will divide both sides by 5, and our final answer is 6. X equals 6. Okay, notice we got an answer. Great. You got it, Karis. Notice we got an answer. That means that there's one solution. 6 is the only value of x that is going to work if we substitute it into the original equation. 6 is the only value of x that's going to make that equation true. So you could write yourself a little note here that that means that there's one solution. Notice we got the variable is equal to a number. So that means one solution. All right, let's look at number 2. This one adds a little bit more complexity. We have 2 times a set of parentheses. Who remembers what that's called? What property are we going to have to do when we have a number times a set of parentheses? It starts with a D. For distribute. We're going to have to distribute here. And in fact, that's the first thing that we're going to do. However, we don't just have a 2 in front of the parentheses. What type of 2 is this? This is a -2. Who saw that? Who caught that that's a -2? That's huge. So we're going to distribute that negative through to both of those pieces inside that parentheses. I'm going to bring down the 7x because it hasn't touched anything yet. Okay, so 7x is still there. -2 times x is going to be a -2x. -2 times -10 is a +20. +20. And then we're equal to 40 on the right side. Okay, if you worked ahead, please make sure that your first step matches my first step. All right, next step, combine like terms. We're left with 5x plus 20 equals 40. Okay, go ahead and work on that one on your own. Take it home. Solve for x. I'm going to do it up here as well. Check each step with mine up here as you go. Go ahead and throw in your answer once you've got it. And then interpret what that means. Does that mean that your equation has one solution, 0 solutions, or an infinite number of solutions? What does that mean? Good. So x equals 4 means that we have one solution. The only solution to that equation is 4. That's it. One solution on that one. Okay, let's look at 3 and 4. These ones, I'll give you a clue, don't have one solution. One of them has 0 solutions and the other one has an infinite number of solutions. So let's look at these ones together. Also, with that topic, how many solutions for a linear equation, if that is something that's been confusing for you, I posted some extra help in this lesson 2.1 in Canvas, some extra help videos, and then some more practice problems that you'll practice, and then you'll get immediate feedback before you either take the quiz, if you haven't taken it yet, or before you take your unit test, if you know that you need some additional help. All right, let's look at number 3. First step here. Oh, I have to distribute because that 8 is touching. So we're left with 8x. Karis, looks good. 8x minus 24 equals 8x minus 24. Huh? 8x minus 24 equals 8x minus 24. What does that mean? It's the same. Both sides of the equation are the same. What does that mean? Well, what if you didn't recognize that they were both the same? Let's go ahead and keep going. Let's subtract 8x from both sides. Oh, what do you notice happens? It goes away. So we're left with negative 24 equals negative 24. My question to you is that a true sentence? Is negative 24 equal to negative 24? Yeah. And notice it was also true up here, right? 8x minus 24 is equal to 8x minus 24. Those are true. In fact, this is going to be true regardless of which x value you substitute in. So you could substitute in 100 right here. And we're still going to get the left side equals the right side. We could substitute in -1, both sides for x, and notice the left is still going to be equal to the right. We could substitute in 5. We could substitute in 10. Are you getting a picture here? How many solutions are there for x? X can be any number. So that means this one has an infinite number of solutions because any value of x would work in that equation. Okay, and how you can tell when you're looking at your equation is that you're left with 2 sides of an equation that are definitely true, regardless of what x value you substitute in. All right, let's look at number 4. How many solutions here? So do we have one solution, no solutions, or an infinite number of solutions? So let's get started and simplify it. So we're going to do 7 times x plus 7 times 2. We're going to distribute. So we're left with 7x plus 14 equals 7x minus 10. All right, I saw in the chat somebody subtracted 7x from both sides. All right, let's do that. All right, so we're left with 14 on the left equals -10. Is 14 equal to -10? If I have -$10 and Elijah has $14, do we have the same amount of dollars? No, we don't. In fact, there's no way that you could find an x value to substitute in that would make this true. Therefore, we say, so this is false. So always be false. In fact, there's no way that you will find an x value that will make that true. So we say in this case, there are no solutions. There are no X values that would work in that situation. Okay, so this is 2.1. So in your notes right now, you're taking notes if you're doing the Unit 2 review. If this hasn't completely cleared up your understanding on 2.1, that means you're not ready to take your test yet. So you want to go back into your Apex lesson and do some more practice problems, or go back into 2.1 in Canvas and look at those help videos that I posted. Okay, questions on this slide before I erase? Go ahead and take a picture of it too, so you have it. That's also a great strategy. Okay, I'm gonna clear drawings. All right, here's the last learning target for 2.1. Turning real life problems into mathematical sentences and equations in one variable, and then solve the problem. So there are going to be 2 problems on the test that ask you to write an equation or write an inequality and then solve it. And so you will need to write an equation or an inequality and then also get the correct solution for solving. So let's look at this one together. Here's an example. Paige and her family went to the movies. They bought 4 tickets and paid $12 for popcorn. They spent $40 total. How much did each ticket cost? 1 second. I have an emergency phone call from somebody at work. All right, sorry guys. We're testing on campus, and so there's some emergency stuff that's coming up. Okay, so let's write an equation here. We know they spent $40 exactly. So we know that we have equals 40. All right. What is our unknown? How much did each ticket cost? So the cost of the ticket is our unknown. Cost of ticket. That's our variable. All right. Now we know they spent $12 plus how many teas did they buy? How many tickets did they buy? Good. 4 teas. All right, so here's your equation. So the first step on this is to write the equation. Perfect, Karis. And then your test is going to ask you to solve it. So go ahead and solve that for T. And then check up here against mine and make sure that we have the same answer. All right, I got T equals 7, which means the cost of a ticket is 7. Maya, what's up? Were you going to say something? I'm unable to hear you, unfortunately. All right. Go ahead and try again, Maya. We couldn't hear you. Okay, so there's our final answer on that one. Okay, let's look at 2.2, solving linear inequalities. So this time our quantities are going to be less than or equal to. And here's your learning targets: that you can solve a multi-step inequality by collecting like terms and isolating the variable, and that you can create inequalities in one variable and use them to solve real world problems. So go ahead and get these written down into your notes, especially those first two. The third one, there's lots to write, so you could take a picture of that one so you have it again later. All right, let's look at number 1. What is the solution to this inequality? So we want to get x by itself. So let's subtract 15 from both sides. We're left with x is less than or equal to 9. Boom, 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 which means x can be any number equal to 9 or less. I'm going to write that out in words because sometimes we get the less than or equal to sign mixed up with the greater than or equal to sign. So x is less than or equal to. All right, let's look at number 2. I put this one up here especially because it looked kind of scary. There was the negative sign out in front and there's a fraction. Those seem to spook us. But we're just going to approach it with the rules that we know that we follow. So this, a negative in front of the whole thing, means that negative can be attached to the x, or that negative could be attached to the 4. It will be helpful for you in this case to think of that as a -4. Because notice, if I get rid of that -4, I then have my x isolated. So it actually reduces our steps. Okay, only one step we have to take to isolate. What undoes dividing by -4? Multiplying both sides by -4. Now, what happens though with inequalities? Anytime we multiply or divide an inequality by a negative number, something happens. Something special happens. This is a siren. Woo, 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 woo. Should be going off in your head. Anytime you multiply or divide an inequality by a negative number, what happens? I see it in the chat. One person's got it. We have to reverse the inequality sign. Reverse inequality sign. So right now we have a less than sign. I'm going to reverse it to be a greater than sign because we are multiplying both sides by -4. So we're left with x is greater than 7 times -4 is -28. That is our final answer. X is greater than -28. Questions on that one? Okay. Let's look at number 3. So here's the directions that you're going to see on the test. It says choose 2 answers, one for the inequality that models the situation and one for the correct answer. So let's write an inequality and then solve it to come up with the right answer. So on number 3, Charlie wants to order lunch for his friends. He'll order 6 sandwiches and a $2 kids meal for his little brother. Charlie has $32. How much can he spend on each sandwich if they are all the same price? Wow, Charlie sounds like a stand-up guy. All right, so he wants to get 6 sandwiches and $2 kids meal for his little brother. He has $32. How much can he spend on each sandwich if they're all the same price? So let's choose a variable here. Let's do S for a cost of sandwich, or the price of a sandwich. All right, if we're going to use the variable S, what is our inequality that we can write that will help us solve to figure out how much can he spend on each sandwich? Hey, Jimmy, we are working on 2.2 review here. All right, so let's see. We know that he's going to spend $2 on his little brother. So 2 plus. How many sandwiches does he want to get? Or how many S's does he want to get? Beautiful. He wants to buy 6 S's. Now he only has $32, so he could spend exactly $32, yes? Could he spend more than $32? No. Could he spend less than $32 though? Sure he could. So the sign you want to put in there then is the less than or equal to sign, meaning we need the kids meal plus the sandwiches to either be equal to $32 or it could be less than $32. All right, and then go ahead and solve that inequality. Are we reversing the inequality sign at all on this one? Because we divided by 6. Does that reverse our inequality sign? No, we don't reverse the inequality sign because notice we're dividing by a positive number. So this means S is less than or equal to 5. That means that we could spend $5 or less on each sandwich. $5 or less. On each sandy. All right, questions on this one, inequalities. So if these 3 problems didn't clear up lesson 2.2 for you, then you know what lesson you need to go and do some more practice on. And then also if you need more practice on it and you can't find it in your lesson, just let me know and I can send you some extra practice. Khan Academy is always a good resource to go to for more practice too. Okay. 2.3 is all about literal equations. And this one seems to kind of scare students at the beginning, but then once you figure out what you're supposed to be doing, it's not that bad. It scares students because you're looking at equations that have lots of variables. But you're being asked to solve for one of the variables. So when you're looking at something like this, you want to squint your eyes really closely and think of everything as numbers. Yeah, just think of everything as numbers except for one variable. So let's look at this, see what I mean. So let's look at the first one. 2.3. All right, we want to solve for x. So I want you to think of x here as our only variable in this entire problem. Okay, treat k like a number. So we want to peel our onion and get x alone on one side. Everything else is going to be on the other side. So let's get rid of that plus 11. So you follow your same order for subtracting or for isolating the variable. Okay, so we're left with 4x on that left side. Now, on the right side, we're left with k minus 11. Can we combine those? Is k minus 11, are those like terms? No, they're not. So we just leave it as k minus 11, okay? K minus 11 is just a number. Last step, we want to get that x alone. That's our goal here. Undo times 4. So divide both sides by 4. I'm going to divide the entire right side by 4. So your final answer here is going to be x is equal to k minus 11 all over 4. That is your final answer because there's nothing else that we can do to simplify it. K is holding the number for a variable, or excuse me, for a number, and that's okay. So k minus 11 all over 4. You have to start to be comfortable with being uncomfortable. And this is one of those lessons where things are just kind of left not quite all the way done. And that is just algebra, and that's okay. They're holding space for numbers to go into. All right, let's look at number 2. The formula P equals 2L plus 2W means that the perimeter of a rectangle is equal to twice the sum of its length and its width. So here's a rectangle. We have width, length, and length, and our perimeter is 2 times L plus 2 times W. And that comes from if we just summed up the 4 sides. So we're left with 2W plus 2L. Okay, we want to solve this equation though for W. So we want to get W alone. So I'm going to circle it. Pretend like this P is a number. Pretend like this 2L is a number. Our only variable here is W. So let's go ahead and get this isolated. Okay. So first step I need to do is to get rid of this 2L. We're just going to treat it as one number that we're going to move to the other side. You got it. We're going to subtract 2L from both sides. So we're left with P minus 2L. It bothers me that that L looks like a 1, but we will follow what the book wants us to do. All right, and then you just have one more step. How do we get W by itself? What undoes times 2? Divide both sides by 2. And we want to divide the entire left side by 2. That's it. Do we have W alone? We do. Can we simplify anything? Is P minus 2W or 2L, are those like terms? Can we combine them and make it smaller? No, we can't, because we don't know what P is. We don't know what L is. So you're just going to leave them in that form. And that is your final answer. So we've solved for W. All right. So this is called literal equations. There's a bunch of practice in there. So your practice problems on this, make sure that you do the worksheet 2.3.2, your checkup worksheet. Lots of practice on here. And if you want to bring in questions on that, Thursday at 10 a.m., we can go over questions on that together. Or you could go to your tutor.com link and connect with a tutor and go over questions. Okay. Last lesson that you are going to see on your Unit 2 test is measurement in units, point 4. Okay, the big idea at the beginning of this lesson is understanding the difference between precision and accuracy. And that's an interesting idea because I think a lot of people use those words incorrectly. They use them interchangeably and they don't mean the same thing. So let's talk about precision. Let's say we have a target here, bullseye. Anyone ever shot a bow and arrow before? Any bow and arrow? Yeah. How'd you do, Karis? Did you hit the target? Or darts is the same way. Good. Darts, same idea with darts. Okay. So when you're shooting at a target, hitting the target is great. Even better though, you want to be shooting the center of the target. So if someone is shooting darts here or arrows and they're aiming for the middle, here are all of your dart attempts right there. We would say that this is very accurate because it has hit the target, the center of the target, where we wanted it to be, where we needed it to be. So that's accurate. Okay. What if a shooter, they shot six arrows, all 6 of them landed off the center, but they were all really close to each other. This shooter has precision because it's all in a similar spot. Is it in the right spot though, where we want it to be? No, but it's very precise because that shooter kept having a very consistent hand, all landed in a very precise spot. So precision and accuracy are 2 different things. And this lesson talks about it. Let's look here at this example when we're talking about precision and accuracy. Real life situation here. Let's look at this first one. A digital thermometer reports a temperature of 32 degrees as being 32.02% Fahrenheit. So is that precise or accurate or both? There are 3 problems like this, I think, on your test, or two of them actually. So precise, accurate, or both? So first of all, is it accurate? Is it correct? Did it hit its target? Yep, really close, right? We're just off by 0.2%. Good. Okay, also it's precise because it gave us a lot of detail in the measurement. Okay, so precise in this case also means we have a lot of detail. Accurate means it's correct. All right. And then the last 2 problems that we'll go over, and then I'll stick around for some questions over this or anything else you're working on. Let's look at, we'll call this problem number 2, and then this one number 3, was we wanted to convert in this lesson. So to convert a distance of 1.7 miles to feet, which ratio could you multiply by? 1.7 miles. Okay, so this lesson was all about multiplying by a ratio equal to 1 that would change miles to feet. So how many feet are in a mile? Could somebody Google that really quick? How many feet are in a mile? I think it's 5,280. Anyone? Oh, you beat me to it. 5,280 feet are in a mile. Okay, so which ratio could we multiply by? We're going to take these two measurements that are equal to each other and set them up in a fraction. And we want our miles to cancel out. So that means I need miles to be down here at the bottom. So 1 mile. And then 5,280 feet are going to be at the top of our fraction. So this is the ratio that we're going to use to multiply by to turn miles into feet. And look at what happens here as we do this. Miles cancel out. And then you multiply 1.7 by 5,280, and you get your final answer in feet. So go ahead and crunch that on your calculator. 1.7 times 5,280. Notice this problem didn't ask us to actually calculate it. It asked you what ratio can you use to calculate it. So your answer on this one is this ratio right here. Good. All right, let's look at number 3. What's the result of converting 8 gallons to quarts? So we have 8 gallons. How many quarts do we have? Remember, there are 4 quarts in a gallon. So 4 quarts in 1 gallon. All right, we're going to multiply 8 gallons by something. We want to cancel out gallons and be left with quarts. So what is our ratio that we're going to multiply by? We're going to use the same word. Which ratio are we going to multiply by that will cancel out gallons? So we want gallons then to be in our denominator because we want the gallons to cancel out and be left with 4 quarts. So this is your ratio that you're going to multiply by. Good. Great answers I'm seeing come through. Our gallons cancel out and we're left with 32 quarts. Good. Okay, so be careful on this one. You're not just calculating. 1 or 2 of your questions are going to ask you what ratio to use, okay? And your goal is to always set up your ratios so your units that you don't want anymore cancel out. So that's how you know what to put in the top and what to put in the bottom of your ratio. Okay. So that is it for our review. I'll stick around and answer questions, but make sure that you do your review worksheet before you take your test. Super, super, super important. If you take your test and you're not happy with your score, reach out to me and we'll find a way for you to retake it. Okay? It usually involves me having you do some extra work. We're meeting with me in Zoom and going over questions or something before you retake it. Okay? I don't want you to be scared to take a test because you're worried you're not going to do well, because you can always retake it. Okay? So just take that pressure off and just do your best work. And remember,